morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our session on the occasion of Filmfest Hamburg, where we focus on the topic of the day, AI. I'm glad to welcome as well our colleagues from other European countries. My name is Christiane Siemen from the Creative Europe Desk Hamburg, which is part of a pan-European network of offices to promote the media program. Thank you everybody for being with us this early morning. The President of the EU Commission and the federal German government consider AI to be the most important key technology for the future. This certainly applies already for areas like mobility, medicine, and journalism. But does AI and creativity, especially art, how is cinema, go together? This is the question we want to address today. Therefore, I welcome our moderator for today, Björn Stockleben, Professor for New Media Production at the Film University Babelsberg. We are glad to have found an expert who combines knowledge and passion for both areas, film production and film analysis. Thank you very much for doing this and being with us, Björn, and I pass the floor later on to you.
Thank you.
Our further guest is Sami Arpa from Largo Films, whose technology promises, in the best case, to predict the revenue of your films. Last year, during the film festival in San Sebastian, the technology was awarded with a media-supported prize for the Best Startup Challenge. And thanks to a call for tender of the media desk Swiss, some European Arthouse producers were already able to benefit from the use of Largo.ai. Carlo Dursi from Spanish Potencia Producciones will share his experiences with us, and Andrea Schütte, founder of Hamburg-based TamTam Film, will reveal her expectations in working with AI. Thank you very much, all of you, for having followed our invitation. But the floor is open to you as well. You're invited to ask questions under the button Q&A. We're looking forward to a vivid discussion and hope to give you the opportunity to contribute to the question if AI will become the best friend of all creators. At this point, I sincerely thank my colleagues Britta, Lukas, and Greta for making this session possible. Thank you very much. And before I leave the screen to Björn, I'm happy to welcome the director of Filmfest Hamburg, Albert Widerspiel, who will address some welcoming words to you as well. Good morning, Albert.
Good morning, Christiane. Good morning, everybody. So we are truly thankful that the Creative Europe has used us as an opportunity for this gathering this morning. We are a hybrid festival, so we are screening films in the cinemas and we are streaming them online. The good news for me is that there are more people coming to the cinemas than there are streamers, which is good for us. Nevertheless, there are some advantages of streaming, and one of the advantages that we have guests from all over Germany, not other countries, because we are geo-blocked, but we have guests from all over Germany. And this is also the advantage of a webinar like this morning, because I heard that we've got guests from all over Germany, but we've also got guests from other European countries. So there are some advantages to a side advantage of the Corona crisis, I would say. So I'm really happy to have you all. And I'll be even more happy, Christiane, if we do this physical next year, and they all will come to Hamburg and we'll have a live chat and a coffee afterwards, because I think the biggest problem in all this are, as you mentioned before, who can I talk to after this? Who am I going to share my thought with? This is like where you're really lonely at the end. Nevertheless, I think it's a great initiative. It opens up a lot of possibilities. And also, let me at the end say, I used to be a distributor before I did Filmfest, and I'm very jealous that we didn't have the tools of AI at that time already, which is 20 years ago. So AI was not even in our thoughts or in our wildest dream. So thank you very much, Christiane, for organizing this. Welcome to Hamburg, to a virtual Hamburg. enjoy the next 1.5 hours and see you next year in Hamburg, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert.
Hello and good morning also from my side. I'm Björn Stockleben from Film University Babelsberg, and I will be the host for this session. So I found it very interesting that now, due to Corona, a concept actually from the virtual world, the geo-blocking, has been introduced to the physical world. Also quite troublesome that you experience that at a film festival where usually people from all over the place, all over Europe, mingle. Suddenly only the locals can hang out in the cinemas and then have a conversation and a beer afterwards. So like everybody here, probably I also sincerely hope that we'll meet in person next year. But now let's make the best of this situation, and I think this will be a vibrant morning. The schedule is as follows. We will start with an interview with Sami, who will introduce some general thoughts about AI and also himself and his company. Then we will jump right into the matter by looking at a project analysis based on a project that was provided by Andrea Schütte. And after the analysis, where also Sami will add a bit to the findings that Andrea got from the Largo.ai tool, then after that, we will interview Carlo Dursi, who has been following the development of AI tools in film production for quite a while, and he will give a larger context and a scope and maybe a roadmap how this could go on in the future and what we as producers can do together with AI researchers to make it really the tool that we need and that brings the European independent film forward. Christiane already introduced Sami a bit. So he's the founder of Largo Films, and he's also a researcher at the very prestigious École Polytechnique Fédérale at Lausanne in Switzerland. So he's combining some unique skills to create a unique service for European producers, and I'm happy to welcome you here. So Sami, as an introduction question, what I would really like to know is, was there a moment when you thought, well, this technology is really something that could transcend the human mind? There's a potential to discover something that my mind alone, or also a group of human minds, could not do. Was there such a moment?
I mean, I've been doing research for many years on computational aesthetics, creating art by using machine and computer, and also understand the art itself. But in that, my primary research, we were not using artificial intelligence. Rather, we were understanding the techniques of the artist, and then we were replicating this with the modular method so that the computer can generate that. Once we came to the point of the AI, for me, one surprising point was that one experiment we were doing for understanding the drama over the content. I was quite skeptical because, for example, understanding drama by machine, it might be quite challenging because there is no consensus by human for such a term. It's not a tangible thing. For the machine, for the task like detecting human, cars, roads, trees, let's say for autonomous driving, these things are tangible. They are very definable. You just showed these things to machine as it sees more, then it can go precision close to 100%. But once it comes to cinematographic concept, to teach drama, comedy, adventure, this kind of abstract things to machine, yes, I was skeptical at the start. But back in like 5 years ago, some of our initial learning approach on that, we saw we get quite a good amount of accuracy of AI, which comes to consensus to human. Let's say this way, so you have a piece of narrative, let's say like a piece from a film, and then you ask to 100 people, so what do you think the genre of this film? Is it drama, is it comedy, adventure, etc.? You don't, not 100 people is telling the same thing, maybe like 70% in general we see for the change for different concepts. they have the consensus. Okay, this is drama. So we saw we can come to that point, to that consensus with the AI if you give enough sample, and then it can reach the consensus understanding of human by using machines, so we can achieve that. So that was for me very exciting. That was one of the motivating point to go further, to develop many other concepts to provide to the industry.
So it was like you felt that the machine was not only calculating something, like if you have autonomous driving, so you calculate the chances of a crash when there's a certain when you approach traffic lights with a certain speed, and this is all mathematics. But of course, drama is not mathematics. So it might have been really a revealing moment when you felt like, was it like you felt understood by the AI? So like, yeah.
I think at the start, the first mistake that we did, we first tried to put, let's say we try to teach violence, which is also a cinematographic element, violence as a to the machine. We try to define the violence by ourselves first. We said, okay, what can be relevant to violence in a film? Let's say gun, fight, hitting. So we try to find these kind of terms and then first teach these terms to machine, and then from that we predict what is violence. That was quite a wrong approach, because then we give a lot of bias of our own thoughts about what is the violence, and it was not working very well. Eventually we said, okay, we should let the machine discover itself what is relating to that concept. The same thing for drama and comedy. We don't tell anything to AI, we say just, let's say this is a comedy piece, and then you show a lot of examples. And then in these examples, it starts to understand what are the repeating elements inside that concept, which gives that insight of that. I think I find this similar to what a baby learns, even that thing. I mean, for a baby, what is a comedy is also partly understood with the people, the reaction of people around that. It sees, I mean, people are laughing, smiling to certain phrases, to certain situations, and it slowly adapts to that and then learn this as a concept of this as well.
Maybe you could say that this is at the core of the AI. You don't have, so this is actually the old-fashioned approaches. So we tell the computer, look for this, look for that keyword, look for that. And if you find that, then you classify it as a violent film. So like look for fights, look for crying people, shouting people, or look for certain exclamations and words in the script. And then you let it run across a lot of scripts, and then you would have a classification for violent films. So that would be an old-fashioned approach. The new approach, machine learning approach, would be you just give a broad concept of violence. We see the concept of violence here. You can give a bunch of films to the AI. It analyzes the films and looks what they have in common. And the machine does not know that it is violence, but if you say these are all violent films, see what they have in common, they will find, they can subsume all these patterns they find under the concept of violence. So you just give the concept and a body of films that embody the concepts. And from that, the machine learns the underlying elements of, a violent film, or maybe an action film, or comedy for that matter. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as much, that's the thing we saw, as less as supervised the machine is, it becomes more, because as more we supervise the machine, that means we bring more of our bias, which necessarily doesn't have to reflect, I mean, what is the consensus about that thing. And then you, even if you bring like 100 people, still it's not enough in terms of such consensus.
We might come back to the topic of bias, just to add on that a little bit. So you're telling, like, if we are defining the concepts that make a drama or a comedy or an action film a priori before, and we tell the machine, look for this, it is actually our categories in which we force the machine to think. And the interesting thing is that the machine can discover patterns that we haven't thought of, which is quite intriguing. We will come back to that later. I would like now to shift to a little different perspective, or to the matter of film and the relevance of such technologies for the European film market. So while data analysts can make a lot of money today, European independent cinema, on the other hand, is not the place you turn to if you want to make big money. So there must be something else that interests you in working with film, with European film. So I would like to know, what was your motivation to first found a company that addresses the movie business, and then also focus so strongly on the European market and work with European producers?
Yeah, I've been professionally working in science part, more nerdy part, but I've been also in the kitchen of film industry. I've been director for 2 short films, and we have a film festival in Lausanne that we are organizing past 5 years. So yeah, I've been quite ambitious about filmmaking from my childhood. So actually, the company is a bit of result of that. I mean, we said, okay, we have the ambition from filmmaking, and then also we have the knowledge from the science part that we can combine this together. As you pointed out, I mean, if you just focus on US market, Hollywood market, that is easy in terms of both the technological development. You just focus on one market, certain type of data, and then much easier in terms of teaching the machine the concepts. But I mean, yeah, our goal is not just making money, but really also doing something which is our passion and contribute to the industry, and in a way actually help the industry to democratize a bit further through AI. And for that thing, we see some problems in European industry, especially for independent producers as well. The access to such tools is quite limited and difficult. And normally, in regular case, the costs are so high also for such tools. So that was also one of our mission. We said, actually, I mean, if we can create the different packaging of these tools, and then some tools can be still affordable enough, and then also address to some problems of independent producers. And then, but yet this is not enough. Europe is quite fragmented. You have many countries, even the problems, the needs of the producers are changing from the country to country. And this is, at this moment, we are strongly working on that. And actually, as Christian mentioned, the media desk Swiss support, that is particularly for that, we got 20 producers from different European countries. And then we are very closely working with them, not just giving the services to use that, but we try to understand a bit the perspective of independent producers, the problems, and then bringing some additional tools that can even help them further.
Yeah, so I also understood that the fragmentation and the diversity of the European market is something that is, well, you said US is easy. It's probably in a from various perspectives, it's easy. So if you concentrate on blockbuster movies, you have always large audiences, you have, well, large budgets, you have a lot of data about, well, a core cast of actors. So because they're reoccurring in every movie. So it is easier from a data analysis point of view, because you got a lot of data about the same actors, but just a small bunch of them, about the same studios, because they do a lot of films. And then also easy, of course, in terms of acquiring money, because if you have a movie with a multi-million budget, it's easier to spare some for data analysis, whereas if you are between 1 and 10 million, it's probably a lot harder. So could you maybe tell about these challenges that regional niche markets and the diversity that we have in Europe? Well, I'm not able to finish the sentence correctly. So, but what do niche markets mean for your business or for your technology? And then maybe also the question, is it really matter, or are we more different than we think in Europe? Please.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the niche markets indeed, I mean, they are more challenging in terms of the data, but there are two parts. Some of our tools, it's learning from like the universal language of the film. There are certain concepts, it's still the same for independent film, blockbuster film. There is this part, that universal language, that system already provides the insights or whatever you put there. So these tools here, I mean, we don't need too much retraining from the country to country, but there are certain tools that we need to go really deeper in specific this country. For example, from these patterns to go to forecasting, financial forecast. You really need to understand what kind of ingredients is working in what way, in which country. And then, yeah, if as the narrow down the data, the capability of AI for learning is decreasing. But I mean, one thing for us motivating, we are a Swiss startup. I mean, we have early stage, we even started to try it in Swiss box office with some films. That was for us motivating. I mean, if you think about like Switzerland has a population of 8 million, a small country, and then the data from this country, if we can provide still some confident and useful results for this forecasting part as well, then that means we can provide to many other European countries as well for that part. And that's why, I mean, then European countries now, I think we have like 13 European countries in the system.
Okay.
That we provide actively support.
So by and large, one could say there are certain concepts where you can learn from the body of data of all films that are out there. Then there are certain concepts which need more granularity. So for example, if you want to make certain cast recommendations and it gets down to the specifics of the local market when you want to make predictions on actually revenues. But you say that you're confident because like in a country like Switzerland with 8 million, which is, well, a pretty small country when I may say so, but for European for a European country, we have a lot of countries in that size. So, and that makes you confident that this could scale and be valuable throughout all over Europe. When you introduced these concepts the first time, and maybe go a bit way back, so when you introduced this the first times to producers, how did they react, and did that maybe change over time? What reactions did you get?
Yeah, there's, I think, very rapid change over the industry. I think the first reaction, I mean, there's a high level of skepticism in general in the producers. And then I think one particular reason for that, we were seeing it's a bit the wrong perception of AI. Maybe the concept, once we first approached to some producers, they think it's like a kind of tool that can write the scripts, do the whole the film, and then replace the creative process. So in that approach, of course, the expectation is so high, and I can see the reason for being skeptical, and I can tell you, also being an expert in that field, we still have the way too many years for that, and I am not sure even it's not only about the capabilities, or also if there will be needs, desire to go in that direction. So this is one thing we try to tell. This is more an assistance tool. It's like a magnifier. Your expectation shouldn't be very high, but it can bring still very significant value. And the second thing, I think, second misperception, even for these assistance tools, since it's AI, there is a perception as if it will work like 100% correctly. This is another thing. I can tell. I mean, in creative industry, some AI tools you are using, it will never, depending on the application, but for many cases, it will never go to like 100% kind of accuracies, because this is some behavioral thing, some cognitive understanding. The things that AI is understanding, there is not consensus by human itself. But the main advantage of that, so it brings you some consensus feedback in a very fast way. You can think this way: if you get your film like get feedback from the 1,000 people, but with AI you can get already that consensus in a very fast way in front of you. And then in our case studies, we see, I mean, this can really bring important benefits, significantly change the impact of your content.
Yeah, well, that was very nice, because you actually also already answered the question I wanted to ask to wrap up the first part of this. So what are appropriate reasons for producers to use AI, and what are misleading reasons? So you just said misleading would be if you actually expect the AI to write your script or to give definitive answers, 100% certainty, and instead the right reasons would be it gives you a perspective which could be compared to like an average opinion or assessment if you ask a lot of people on their opinion on the, well, dramaturgical structure, or if you ask, it's like one opinion amongst others that you can weigh into your decision, and the advantage is that you get this feedback very fast, and that you can actually iterate it. So you change your script, you let it run again, and then you get another feedback and can consider that while writing, or you can ignore it if you decide to. Well, I think we can now go into the analysis, but before we look at the case, just a short remark. So we already got the first question. I will chip in the questions during the interviews and presentations if appropriate. In any case, we have time for questions in the end. So please fill in this question and answer, your questions to the question and answer feature, and we will consider them all. And you can do it right now, so I will monitor them while we're doing the presentation. Okay, so Sami, now you would have to stand back a little bit while we give the floor to Andrea, who supplied a project so she was kind of our guinea pig. She has never used an AI tool before, am I right to say so? And so we decided to let her share her first experience with the tools, because they would likely be similar to the experiences you would also have. And the questions she have are most likely those you would also have. So we will take it from there, address her questions, and Sami will then add on that perspective what else could be done with the tools or what he could see in the analysis. Andrea, are you ready to share your screen? And no, perhaps to first introduce the project, Highly Explosive, that you want to introduce us to today.
I'm ready. First of all, let me just very briefly introduce myself and my company so that you know where we come from. I'm one of the two heads of Tantam Film. We're an independent company based in Hamburg, and for the past, I think, 8 years, have been producing mainly theatrical content, fiction and documentary, with a few detours to television. Our productions are not hardcore art house, I might say. We try to navigate between the artistic and the mainstream. We do European co-productions and productions that we carry out single-handedly. More or less, all our projects have been developed from scratch by our writers or writer-directors in a very strong collaboration with us as a creative producer from the very beginning. So we basically know every project's core and also their weak spots. As for Highly Explosive, the project that we are going to dive deeper into during this course of the session, we teamed up with writer-director Kerstin Polte from very early on. And first she introduced us just an idea, namely what is going to happen with each and everyone once a bomb is found in their neighborhood and they need to get themselves evacuated. And then we took it from there. And just maybe not everybody knows that and not everybody's aware of that, but in Germany, there are still many World War II bombs which didn't explode back then and lie underground. Some of them still able to explode, some of them just duds, so dead bombs. And whenever such a bomb is found, mainly in the course of construction work, it has to be deactivated by, and all the population within a certain radius has to leave their homes, only with their bare necessities and not knowing what to expect when they come back. So this is the setting for our film. and it's an ensemble film, and it follows the lives of a number of people during 3 days of just discovering the bomb, the evacuation, and the end of it. It's very difficult to summarize it more briefly, and I think I will come to some more details further down the road, but that's basically the setting. And after 2 years of developing, right now we have the 3rd draft of the script, and we are working on the 4th. And we spent quite some time, very substantial time, working in the treatment phase, because we had to evaluate and structure the different storylines. And now we are right in the process of casting and finding our financial partners. That's where we stand right now.
Maybe you can add quickly what attracted you to try the analysis and what made you curious?
As I said, it took us some time to balancing out the right mix of the stories, the characters, and the structure. And we were under the impression that we have developed a drama with lighter elements and tried to have a good equilibrium of bringing in the different storylines, but I didn't know if we were right. I mean, that was just basically our small writer's room that we thought that we might have done a good job. And of course, every story wants to be very original, and every filmmaker wants to go their own way. And this is what we need, because this is what leads to innovation and new ways of storytelling. But knowing the formula of films that have led the way helps to make important decisions. So I thought that with AI, as used here, we could get a better idea where we followed the rules that come up with this kind of story and film, and obviously where we were not. I expected to weigh the ingredients, so to say, and to get a better idea of how to position the film, and to be more confident for myself, and consequently when approaching financing and distribution partners. So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I think that those are good motivations. And
I expect AI to write the script, because we already did that.
Yeah. And so you had the right motivations. That's a good start. And well, I think you could now share your screen and tell us what the Largo AI tool told you.
Can it be seen?
Yes,
Shared it?
I can see it well.
So everybody sees it. Okay, so this is what I got, or this is what I got first. No, this is not. Let me just quickly go. Oh,
I think you need to just refresh the page, because it's...
Again, okay. Go there. So this is highly explosive. These are the information, or the pieces of information I provided. I was asked by Sami and his colleagues to give a few ideas of what the story is about, in addition to the script itself. So I provided the script and the logline and a synopsis, which can be read here but doesn't have to, the original title, the original language, the intended genres, the length, the main country of release, us as producers, and so on, and also the budget, which is intended to be 4 million. And then I was asked to add a few characters and their main traits. I did it here. And this is basically the overview. And then I think I go to pre-production 2. You have the dashboard. And then what you get here is an overview about the different things that AI can, or this system can provide. It's a genre recipe. Then there is something about, I think I have to go to pre-production 1, because this is not all accessible.
Yeah, just for explanation, these are pre-production 1 and pre-production 2 are just 2 runs of the analysis. So she changed something, and then they had another run, which then is subsumed under pre-production 2. So just as a background.
Yes, but this one it doesn't really matter. The changes don't really matter for what we are going to see here.
Yeah.
So These are the things that are going to be analyzed in depth, and this is just a basic overview. And then you can dive into every other section or go a little bit deeper. But you can see here, for example, that as we said, we intended to have a drama, which has like 62% of the finding confirmed that it's a drama. And then I said we have it with lighter elements, so I don't want to call it comedy, but this is what basically is reflected here. And then what I found interesting is that it's also a thriller. We never thought of it being a thriller, and I will come to it a little bit later, why it is considered to be one, and there are other elements as well. You can go into that then, and this is really, really interesting because it shows you here, this is the course of the script. It's split up in different sections, which are not correspondent to the scenes, but basically you can dive into and see what scenes are correspondent to that. What is quite satisfying, or was quite satisfying for me when it comes to genre, was that there is, while the drama aspect is pretty consistent, there are moments where it is a little bit less dramatic and some where it is more dramatic, but in fact, our genre expectations are met. But then there are others where I thought, well, for example, here, there's a strong element of horror, or we also have some sci-fi, which is apart from the thriller genre that we never thought would come into mind when we read our script. And Sami was so kind to provide a scene analysis why it is sci-fi in this particular case, and it is because one of our main parts is a physics teacher, and at one point she talks about Schrödinger's cat, and but she does so in order just to with a colleague, and he's a little bit stupid, and she's talking about Schrödinger's cat to show the audience in a way that she's a little bit that she's above this other guy. It doesn't have to be anything with sci-fi, but because it is in there, the system found it to be a little bit sci-fiistic. What you can see here is that whenever you jump to a certain point, it also, well, it doesn't let me, I'm not that used to it, it jumps to the particular part of the script, but you can scroll through here, and you see that it shows you on the right-hand side where different genres prevail. And this is really helpful because I know what I intend with each scene. Seeing or comparing the findings to my intentions are very helpful, because if I see, for example, a scene that is highly drama and I intend it to be more lighthearted, then I would know that at least I have to observe it a little bit deeper and see why it might be considered that way and why I might have to change it. Or it gives me just it confirms my ideas. So here, down here, just to navigate you a little bit more through this, you have the different aspects again of the whole script. So what the first page already showed us. And then you have a very nice feature because you can compare it with another film. And at least maybe the German audience knows the film that I just type in here. It's Hans Christian Schmid's Lichter, which is also an ensemble film, just with different aspects. And then you can see, and this is very nice, this is Lichter, and this is highly explosive. And when I said in the first place what my expectations were, that I tried to be more confident about what I do. I don't want to make a film which is like Lichter, but I thought that Lichter pretty much served very well in what it was doing. So to set up this benchmark for myself and to see that they have a similar wave, I would say, gives me that kind of confidence. And if I enter another film, for example, which is also a very famous ensemble film, you see that it's very different. It's the nature of the film that this is a high concept comedy and also with dramatic elements. And I don't match that, but I don't want to. So it's very good to be able to compare this to other films and to see how they are structured and how they work. This one has a lot more sections, and I was told that this is due to a much higher frequency of dialogue. Our film apparently doesn't have so much dialogue as Love Actually. I think it's not due to Mr. Beam. But yeah, so this is what you can do with the genre, and this is what helps a lot. Do you want to interrupt, or do I just go on, Björn?
I think you can go on. You're doing a good job.
Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah.
We can just, so for me, in this particular section, I can just go back to the script, see if my personal intentions or the writer's personal intentions are considered to be met or not, and then to make my own educated decisions. I think it's not that AI takes over and says you have to do that or that, but I can make my educated decisions based on that findings.
Yeah. Maybe one addition regarding the data points. So more dialogue means more data points. So the basic takeaway is that AI learns a lot learns more from dialogue than it can learn from settings description and the rest of the script. That's the main takeaway. So it's easier to get patterns from dialogues than from other parts of the script.
In descriptions, yes.
Yeah.
Then you come to something that is, well, this is a point for marketing, that you the system analyzes the age suitability of your script. In our case, and I don't know, I haven't compared it, and I can compare it to Love Actually again. This is more a film for our film. Sami told me our film is more for adults. It also can reach teenagers and adults and also all audiences, but compared to, for example, Love Actually, which is a more adaptable film, it's more a family film than ours, although it's not a family entertainment. And you can see at which points it is more adult content, but I think it's not a PG-18, so it's just more mature. And then you have other sections that are more accessible by all age groups. This is something that is, for me, not so relevant, because I think we are doing a film for a more mature. We're not doing a film for teenagers or families. It's a grown-up film for grown-up people with grown-up people. So for me, this is interesting to see, but I wouldn't change my decisions based on that. But I think that there are other films where this is highly important, because it's our target group, and so I think my target group is met, so I'm not concerned. But if I were to make a children's film and I saw that, then I would be concerned. Then there is something, and you can see here, and this I found very interesting, that it says genre recipe is something that AI provides, age suitability as well, but quality analysis is something that has to be entered by humans. And we don't have that, because it would mean reader ratings, and we don't have that yet. And then there is another very interesting and very helpful feature, and this is the character analysis. And for me, that was, since it is an ensemble film, that was particularly interesting, because coming back to what I said before, the equilibrium of the characters and their interactions, this is what makes the story and their connections. So this is something that I can basically check here. As you can see, I think I can move it around a bit, but this is, I didn't really see the reason for that, but it's nice. As you can see, there are 10 characters. We have more. And I was going back to Sami and asked him, why is this and this character missing? Because there's one basic character missing. And then he said that the system just analyzes the 10 most important or most frequent or most prominent characters. So since there's someone missing, I figure that just by analyzing the script, this part is not prominent enough, or not as prominent as I would like it to be. So this is very helpful for me to see, and also it helps me to see the interrelations and which connections are stronger. This one is good that it's strong because it's supposed to be like that. Others could be a little bit more intense. And seeing it, I know that we might have to work on some character relations or relationships in the course of the script development. And for example, William is pretty much left out, which we know, whereas all other characters are somehow interconnected. And we had, for example, discussed about that before, if this character should be more connected to others or not, but then we decided that it's okay because he's some kind of lonely person, and it's okay that he doesn't have so much connection to the others within the course of the story. So also this is very reassuring. You can also see that it's a strong female lead because as you can see, all the females are purple and the others are blue. And then there's one thing that is quite also, I think this is something that shows the limitation of AI, because William, I talked about him, is a non-binary character. And Sami knows that I was a little bit critical about that, because I said, why can't the system show that? And the system can only show, well, the two genders that we've known so far, male and female. And this is, at this point, when we talk about the character relationships, it's not really relevant, but when we come to the casting later on, it is a little bit relevant, because what the system also does is to provide information about casting, and I will show you that. But here you can see, and this is also quite helpful, where your characters appear and how frequent they appear. And so in order also to see, well, this is particular in an ensemble film, to see that they appear quite frequently, or that we don't lose them. This is a very helpful chart. Now we come to the casting propositions, and they are made based on the data the system has, and based on the roles those people played before, and similar films or similar characteristics of their parts. And I must say that for Lana, who's somewhere in her 40s, those suggestions are quite fitting. I checked it with my actual expectations and our own approach to cast those roles, and this is something that is quite on the nose. I don't say that we are going for one or the other, but the system is very accurate from what it finds from the script and transforms it into its suggestions. Sanya is a little bit problematic because she's a German with a Turkish background, and this is also another limitation of the system, as I learned that I cannot enter both languages, or if maybe Sami can elaborate on this a little bit later, but these findings are not very satisfying, because for a part that has a Turkish background, I don't want to cast Hannah Herzsprung, although I think she's a great actress. And to not be able to just combine someone who's German but with a Turkish background within the system is at this point quite limiting. But I can enter own suggestions, and then the system will take it from there. But it doesn't come up with it automatically. This is someone else, and then we come to William. All the other in this part and this part, they are also, these recommendations are interesting and helpful. And when we come to William, and as I said, he's a non-binary character, but he was, for the sake of the system, made male. And now I do have these young men that are coming up. And obviously, although it might be the hardest part to cast, or one of the hardest parts to cast, I would like to look for a trans person in order to represent a trans person in film. So there's also a limit, the limits of this system, but I think this is okay at this point. It's going to learn anyway. So yes, that is very helpful, and but I think that it doesn't replace a casting director. Then you have the similar film analysis, which I already did. Well, you can compare them in the different sections, and then it lets you know other films that might have some resemblance with your resemblance with yours, and it doesn't have all the data, but the data that is provided might be quite helpful. Also, other films that the system finds. Many of them I don't know. This one I do. And then you can jump on that one and don't do anything. Well, no. But it shows you also when it comes to German films, which the system considers to be a little bit similar, or which at least can be looked at a little bit deeper in order to maybe find your own benchmark. And then talking of benchmark, or then we come to financial forecast, and there it lets me know what it makes out the box office predictions that might be interesting for the distributors among the participants, and it weighs out a probable, well, nothing is probable, but something that based on everything that it analyzed and based on all the comparisons it made, what could be expected to be made at the box office. And that's basically everything that I can access here. There's the script.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, could you, we had a question from the audience for the genre recipe. Could you compare it to Son of Rambo, 2007? Was a question by Karl Schönfeld.
Great film. I love this film.
Let's see what comes out.
So this is the comparison, and this is the genre mix overall, and this is the waves.
Looks like it has, well, maybe a slightly higher pace, but it's not too different. So maybe Sami, you could chip in. How would you compare those films by seeing what you?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the pace is not extremely different. You see, both of them has close to 60 sections. That means, in terms of dialogues, maybe Son of Rambo can have some slight more frequency. And then one thing I can see, there is slightly more action patterns. You can see like in 3 places. Yeah. But in terms of also in terms of drama, it finds highly explosive, having more drama than Son of Rambo.
Yeah. Okay. I would say, Andrea, to close this or close your part, maybe you could give a general assessment. So did you feel understood by the algorithm by and large, and how did it feel to work with this? Was it much different from working with? So it could have been another producer who reads the script and tells you write that. So like, well, you should position it more in the thriller genre, or there's too much comedy there. So how does it compare?
Well, I think it. The one doesn't replace the other. And yeah. I would also talk to producers or creative people that I trust. And that's what we've been doing with this script and with all the other projects. That doesn't replace it. But it seems that with AI, there's a more objective view. And this objective view helps us, it's probably not as biased as anyone else who reads it with their own life experience would judge it.
Yeah.
And we went to with this project, we went to a script writing workshop. We went to sources too, so that was great. And we did the personal stuff. So we had other directors and writers and producers comment on our script, and that was very different because based on where they came from, based on their own life experience, they saw strengths and weaknesses, or genre aspects very differently than AI does now. I feel that it gives me an opportunity to go back to the project, go back to the script, and check on what I felt maybe insecure about, or even maybe what I felt secure about, and to just go back and to discuss it with my writer, and to see if this is something that we intend to be different, or this is something that might be changed in a way in order to just be a little bit more congruent. But I wouldn't want to it's not. I think it's not a means to uniform or to make uniformistic films. It still should have its own stance. It still should have its own character, and I think it will. But it helps me to weigh it out.
I think it will also be interesting to have Carlo's position on that. But you addressed one question that was also coming up in the chat, doesn't this create uniform films? So you say it's up to you to decide, and you can decide to be different, or you can decide to conform. So, and this decision must be up to the producer, if you can take this as a hypothesis for now, or as a paradigm. I would now like to give Sami the chance to maybe highlight one or the other thing that Andrea might have missed, or maybe we start with the financial analysis and what does it mean? What confidence do we have in it?
Okay.
And we said Sami would share his screen now, so you could navigate quickly.
I think Andrea made already a great job, explained most of the points. Maybe I can just add on a few points. Okay. Okay, so I show you see my screen. I think one thing maybe I can add up is from the character analysis part Andrea mentioned about the limitation of the system once it comes to ethnicity. So for the casting positions, as Andrea mentioned, Sami character, it's with actress, German actress, but Turkish background, if I understand correctly. So the system normally, how it works, if you don't give any filter for the system, AI just looks how much your actor is matching from the pool of all the actors. But once you add your project into the system, we ask you two things. If I come to overview here, you add the gender, age interval that you will prefer for the actors, the language of the actor, and then also the country that you want to be active the actor to be in. For this Sami character, the main limitation for the system is she's German speaking, but with the Turkish background. So that means she has also a secondary language as Turkish. So unfortunately, in the database, we don't have the secondary languages for the actors. So we have only the primary language and then their active countries. So for that reason, the system cannot filter it according to secondary language and then make the match this way. So either you select a Turkish-speaking character. You can still select a Turkish-speaking character active in Germany. I cannot assure if it's speaking German, or the other way. Also, it cannot detect the ethnicity. It can detect where the actor is active, but it cannot detect ethnicity. There are several reasons we don't do this at this moment. One thing we definitely don't want to give the ethnicity information to AI once it's making matching, because this is already one big discussions in the industry, because then it will maybe learn about the bias in terms of ethnicity of the society. But then in practical sides, there are the cases, I mean, like here in Sami character, so you have a character with the Turkish background. So how to address this part? For the current solution, what we do is, I mean, we ask for this kind of actors with a different ethnicity, cross ethnicity, we ask them to put a short list that they have in mind. Once they put the short list, the system is automatically bringing some scores for these characters. Here we have the German actors with Turkish background, and then if you go back to character analysis, it will give scores for these actresses.
Yeah, just to add quickly, this is an interesting aspect that, of course, this technology cannot just be developed in an ivory tower or so, but it's actually this is a place where it confronts reality, and where we together have to decide. So, what options do we want to give? What data do we want to feed? And what might we want to exclude consciously? So I see you talked about ethical considerations, probably that could could affect diversity, equality, and so on.
Yeah.
So this is not ready yet in that sense, but it's just hitting reality. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other limitation, as Andrea mentioned, for this William character, that's again the data problem for, I mean, in terms of the sexual situations for actor, actresses. In the databases, we have only male and female, where the data learns from that. And once it comes to this kind of non-binary situation, yes, then again, it wouldn't suggest in that way. Again, here, yeah, we suggest for putting a short list that you have in mind, and then to see. Then AI doesn't look at that part for the gender, for ethnicity, or anything like that. How much the character and then and then actor is matching.
Yeah. And maybe you could now go through the financial forecast and tell us a bit of what should we make from this? What can we read from this?
Mm-hmm.
How could this be improved?
Mm-hmm. So for financial forecast, just to tell you how to interpret this graph. For example, this graph, it says first weekend box office prediction. You see this red line. So this red line, it's like a most expected point in terms of the first weekend, which is tells 310,000. And then we have some confidence intervals. So to let you know what is these confidence intervals mean, I mean, to making it less technical, more understandable, you can think, for example, like 100 closest film to that film in terms of not only content, but also budget, situations, or all elements together. If you consider 100 films closest to that film, so then out of this 100, if the system gets 60 closest one, the worst one made 114,000, and the best one made 363,000. And once we go to 75% interval, you see the worst case, best case, and 90% case. So these intervals actually, it shows also it changing the parameters, the potential places to go. And then you have also the same thing also in the box office German prediction. Again, 1.2 million. So 1.2 million here, it means with the current shape of the narrative and then the parameters you mostly target, yeah, this is the most possible point. But again, this can be changed, okay? So, because you can, if you change, let's say if you change the budget of the film for the same story, these things will all change. Or if you change, or again, the story significantly, this might change, or the casting selections having an impact as well. So there's many things are impacting all these results.
From what I see, it seems that that the 90% confidence is not really informing. So I'm pretty sure then that my film will be in that range with a 1 to 9 chance, or 9 to 1 chance that I'll be right. But the range is so big that doesn't help a lot. I have a 3 in 4 chance that my film would hit between the 465K and 2.1 million box office in Germany. That's something I can relate to. So it's 3 in 4. That's quite a chance I can take. I wouldn't take like the chance of it's nearly a 1-to-1 nearly, so 60% chance of hitting that window. That would be too risky. But for an orientation, I would probably use that 50.
For
75.
the European industry, I think even 60% confidence is not bad, because considering the current even for studios, that's why actually for us it was a benchmark for studios, because we saw for many of them the green lighting accuracy was around 50%.
Yeah.
And actually we said, let's put the 60% confidence as first thing.
Okay, and that's an interesting fact. So that you say that the predictions that humans made so far in the European independent film industry were averaging on 50%. To 50% they were right. So this gives you a 60%, gives you a higher accuracy than you would actually have. So this sets us into a new perspective. So
yeah, exactly. And for also these intervals to tell, I mean, these intervals, how wide, how narrow, these depends on the film.
Yeah.
So sometimes it gets very narrow, sometimes it gets very wide. So this is also shows, I mean, how sensitive your parameters for this kind of story.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I would like to switch to Carlo now, who, as Cristiano already introduced, is a... Huh?
Hello.
Yeah, hi Carlo. He's a producer, but he has also a past way back in research and new media research. So you have a passion for both producing and research, and that's why you, as I understood, joined Largo.ai, or I have been accompanying them and their work for some time now. And what I would like to know is, so how, well, what got you hooked up into AI, and does this experience that Andrea had mirror your first experiences with AI, or was it different with AI and film producing?
Well, hi, good morning, everyone. It was very interesting, and thanks for inviting me. I approached the AI and metadata calculation since 1999, when I did a thesis, a PhD in marketing, about the merging between TV and the internet. So this is an interest that I started a long time ago, and but I was a little bit too early in my schedule with time. So I had to take apart this project, and I started producing. And when in San Sebastian 2 years ago, I knew about the Largo initiative, I said, okay, that's it. Finally, there's some crazy scientific who is going through all the data, and went through this terrible process of finding a way to merge the data analysis with the cinematographic creation. That is something that is very personal, and specifically in my area, that is art house, it's something that it's very difficult to be measured, because as my colleague just told a few minutes ago, the interpretation of a script in art house and for niche audience is something very based on gut feeling. And so I was at the same time very excited, and on the other, I was very not skeptical, but really realistic in this sense. I could perfectly understand how to match it with the big values of the majors, because they already make movies based on data. They already make projects and casting based on data. Some years ago, people started making casting based on the Instagram interactions and ratings, and then so everyone did something, lot failed, and but Largo looked at to me the most reliable and scientific approach to it. So that's why I started spotting on them.
Yeah. And so where would you see what we've seen right now? Where are we in the journey to where? So yeah, could you give a perspective? So where could this lead? So is this a mature technology? Is this a tool we need, or how could this or would this have to develop? And when would you see it as the tool you would like to see for the industry? So in which time frame?
I think that Largo right now is in the best moment to grow up and to learn. I always speak about the AI as a need, but as a being, not a human being, but as a being. I think now it's the right moment to nurture the AI and to start this process of dialogue with the machine, of data input. And I think that the real bet right now is a way of making it learn as much as possible, specifically to achieve the sense of the niche audience that we have in Europe.
And when you say feeding the AI, well, that's of course not so easy. You need data, you need scripts, you need box office data, and so on. So don't you see a risk that, so there are other firms out there so who do AI analysis, so Rivet AI or Scriptbook was mentioned. So there's a lot of companies that go into that direction. So how do we avoid that one company grabs it all, or everybody just grabs a fraction of it? So how do we feed the data without feeding the beast or a beast?
Well, I think about the AI not as a beast, but as a gentle lady, and who is spotting and searching for the best data. And as we know, it's very. I mean, I don't think that it's critical. There is not an issue on ingesting data. I just think that we may find out, and I'm sure that Sami is already in it, or maybe they already did it because they go so fast that sometimes you ask for something and they're already in it.
Yeah.
In a way to make the machine learn day by day without any human input. So watching movies every day, but we have to solve. I think that the most important thing we have to solve out is the data protection issue, because the machine could watch every Netflix release every day, but maybe Netflix is not that happy if we do it. So I think that on an institutional level, considering that all these big major platforms are landing in Europe without paying any license and without being connected to any legislation, apart from France, who was able to impose an investment rate on their on their invoices in the country. But we need to get back something, and maybe this information are something that we should be able to get, at least the metadata of the movie, all the metadata of all the movies that are released on the major SVOD platform.
Yeah.
Because it's something that obviously it's a very valuable information, but at the same time, I think that as a European Union, we're giving them a lot. We are giving them 500 million customers, so and without any tax, because they are located sometimes in Holland when they have a tax paradise, or maybe in Delaware. So
yeah, I see. So when I was talking about the beast, I was not talking about the AI, but the companies behind. So, and I just thought
these are beasts.
yeah, and so there might be companies that we have the situation that we have data rich and data poor companies in like, you know, Amazon, Google, Netflix are data rich, and of course we as European independent producers we are data poor, so to say, and so we have to share this data, and we have to be sure that this data, that a lot of companies can profit from them, Largo.ai among them, to help us and to develop tools that can help us. I have one of the questions here that I think is fit for you to answer. Dario says, it's a good tool if it falls into the right hands like Andreas, but how to avoid that this tool is used, for example, to influence the final decision making in TV. You can discuss a project with the TV editor, but not with the software. Is there a possibility that it could be used against projects?
I would rather prefer to fight with the AI than with some commission editors that there are around in televisions.
Okay, that is an interesting view. So yeah, so it's maybe a question. Yeah, I think this comes still down to the question: which role do we give the AI? Is it an opinion amongst others, or does it lead what we do? Do we have the freedom to accept or to deny?
Well, right now, for me, it's just my personal approach is that the AI is just another way of analyzing data. Yeah. I will share 1 second my screen because I can tell you because I had a fight with the AI once regarding this project. Let's see how you can share my screen. Compartir pantalla. Okay, here we are. Okay, can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so basically this is an intimate drama, very inspired to women-directed dramas, art house, for very film independent selective audience that we are developing. And once I went to the genre receipt once, at the first time, I was a bit shocked. I will go to the dashboard because it's easier. I was a bit shocked because they told me that there was a lot of thriller that is there. And they say, oh, what the hell? I'm doing an intimate drama. It doesn't happen anything there. No one is killed and nothing happened because it's a story of two sisters that has to bring on an ecological flock of sheep that they inherited from their father in the middle of very rural Spain. And they have to fight against all the intensive exploitation of animals, and they have to fight against multinationals and all these things. And what I could learn from the AI is that sometimes when you leave the characters alone in a very dark situation with few lights, with very natural lights, that is very manner realism, that what we want in the movie. We want the benchmark of this movie is the winner of Locarno, Open Windows of Milagros Munta. Well, the surname is quite complicated to say. Or Trip to the Mother's Room, who was in San Sebastian by Celia Rico. And they say, oh, I have no thriller. But the AI just came to my mind saying, okay, if you do a very dark scene with the background not defined, and there is a character whispering things, take care of it, because you can drop from the intimate drama to the thriller, to something more tense. So you can, the AI told me, you can take advantage of it, or you can avoid it if you think that is not useful for your situation. So what I mean is that the AI is not the oraculus right now. It's another way of deciding. You know, I think that right now we are in a moment where the audience design is the key of it's one of the key of the development and the production of art house project. We don't only have to see what is the audience of our movie from just like this. We have to design the audience of the movie and find a way find what are the niche in our movie to achieve that audience. So maybe Largo can sometimes can say you something that it's totally out of your mind, and you say that it's wrong because it's not Euroculus. But in other times, it can blow a little bit your mind and shake it up and say, okay, look at the things from another side, put the camera on the other way, and you will see the same project in a different way. So I think it's a very valuable added element to find it, and it's a wonderful. And I think that if you are going to a fund and you put in your dossier the screenshot on part of the analysis of Largo, they will at least know that you are questioning yourself for several stuff, and it's very good.
Yeah, thanks. That was a very insightful answer into your way of using it and your perspective on it. I would now like to switch back to Sami and go through the questions like from general to technical, so that at the point where it gets too technical, people might, if they want, drop out. But I think it won't be. There are one or two very specific questions. I will shift them towards the end. I hope that is okay. But we have one question on trends. So if AI draws data generated in the past, how does it incorporate changing societal trends and megatrends? And the other question is similar. Does the system account the downward trend in box office within the last years? As a distributor of Lichter, I know very well that the film wouldn't do the same numbers anymore, and this was planned via release date and other marketing tools. So yeah, that's the question to Sami pretty clearly. How do you? Yeah.
Well, for the, I guess there's two parts. Is trend part. So for trend part, I can tell. So AI actually is supposed to see the trend, unless there is very unexpected sharp trend change in the future. Because the way AI is learning, technically it's from the derivatives, but it sees how a line is going. For example, just to give an example, let's say. In Italian market, so in last 5 years, in the films, let's say, as the amount of drama has increased, the return has increased as well. So what AI will suggest as the next step is, we'll see as a success as the next step, not just the average of the past, but since it sees this increasing trend, so as a next step, it will see it should increase even further because there's a positive trend in that manner. So AI normally, since it is actually learning over the trends, the derivatives over the line, so it is supposed to see also next trend, unless we have very let's say an earthquake happens some region and then it changes everything completely. Of course, it cannot see that, but like a common overgoing trend, so it is supposed to capture that. And regarding to this release date for the example of this German film. Yeah, there is two aspects. Normally, the release time of the films, once we train the AI, the films are always given by their rear. So again, it is supposed to see, also if there is a sharp decay in the box office, it's supposed to learn about that. But this is a two side of the parameter. In one side, maybe the admissions are reducing, but in the other side, there's also inflation parameter. So in that regard, also because of over 20 years, once you look at 20 years old box office thing, in terms of revenue, maybe you get the same, but the admission is less because of this inflation over 20 years. So it considers both of these aspects.
Yeah. So if the trends are manifested in the data, so to say, so you would find comparable films. Lichter would be a comparable film to Highly Explosive, and then there would be a bunch of other films which have been released during different dates in between the planned release date of Highly Explosive and Lichter, for example. And ideally, it would see a trend in dramatic, in upwards or downwards trends in dramatic movies, and take that into consideration. But you cannot predict outliers or very recent trends, probably, because when there's
absolutely, that's true. Once it comes to outliers, it's wouldn't be able to predict those.
Yeah. Okay. then some easier ones. Does Largo.ai only understand English language films?
No, I mean, we are supporting, I think, 12 languages at this moment. So yeah, I mean, in German case, yeah, I mean, we can, we upload, we work with many original German scripts as well.
Yeah, and a short follow-up question. So the body of data generated, is it language specific or not? So does...
No, I mean, that is the thing. So the main ingredients that is found is eventually it is learned English. Okay?
Yeah.
But I mean, so what we do, we have the auto translation corps. They whatever, like the supported language we get, it is translated, and then it goes the main language learning, which is the English. But I mean, so I mean, at the start we were a bit, we were in between two approaches. Let's say, let's go for German approach. Shall we retrain the system just from for some of the concepts just from the German scripts, or can we contribute it to our main system by getting them auto-translated to English? So we actually did the tests for both cases, and we saw actually the auto-translation case works much better in terms of the information that we provide. And also we also did this test such, for example, you make the analysis, let's put for the same script, you put the English version and you put the German version. Yeah. You get very similar results. I mean, okay. The differences is negligible. So.
Yeah. Okay. I would have thought that it made a larger difference when you used auto-translate or used different language.
No, for the level of understanding of AI, I mean, the level of auto-translation, I mean, not for all language, by the way, but I'm talking about I don't know what would happen if we used some Asian language or other language. I don't know. We don't have what for the European languages that we work like 12 languages. That is already working pretty well.
Can Largo.ai assess scripts or also treatment? That also adds into that dimension. So what do you need to start working?
So the treatment, yeah, they can already start to make analysis in what you get. At basic, you see these recipes, again, you will see this again, these genre patterns, age suitability patterns. It will be less dynamic because you don't have exact data points of the story, but it will give you an overall ingredients of the content. And from that, again, it will provide some initial forecasting, similar films as if you put your project packaging, how much money you will invest in that thing. But you wouldn't have, for example, character analysis, as in treatment the characters are not defined as in script.
Yeah, and then well, could I get an indication if we want to extend a bit to cover more questions? For me, that would be fine, but I don't know whether there's a hard cut because there are other events at Hamburg Filmfest or so. Just let me know in the chat. So how long, if and how long we would extend, because I'm always a friend of giving a clear deadline or clear extension. Yeah, how is the box office calculated? On the basis of actors, Largo.ai suggests, or solely on the script?
No, many parameters coming together there. So scripts, patterns, like the system is finding, like these genre patterns, we find a DNA of the script with certain attributes. This is the story part. But then there is all information coming from the project owner side, like the budget of the film. Like if there is already some distributor who is a producer, release country. So the casting, then casting becomes an information. So all of these together impact the box office predictions.
And so sorry that I'm not able to give a very fluent flow between the questions, but I'm doing my best scanning them and listening to you at the same time. How does Largo.ai differ from Scriptbook? We have a question here.
Scriptbook, I think their approach is more focused on script parts, just script analysis.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, we can take on board the project at any stage, at pre-production, post-production, or distribution, because we make the same analysis also from the video version of the content. You really upload the rough cut or fine cut version of the film. Then you get the same analysis. And in terms of the tools, yeah, I think there might be similar tools, or there might be different tools for similar goals.
Okay. Thanks. Now, yeah, that question might not be answered directly, but I still ask you: how much does the system cost, or how much does it cost to use it?
Yeah. Well, depends on the way of usage. We have normally subscription packages, and then on-demand analysis. Just, yeah, I mean, one single, I can tell the price, one single on-demand analysis is 750 euro. You will get your analysis and you have access and you can go play with that. Once it comes to subscription, it depends on the amount that you will use. That we have different packages that we need to discuss that way. And actually, in case of subscription, yeah, the per analysis cost drops significantly.
Okay, I hope that was quite concrete. So usually it's like, well, it depends, and well, so thank you.
Well, yes.
Yeah. So what markets is the AI tool actually covering? With Europe in mind, we have plenty of diverse content, but unfortunately, rarely one has access to scripts of project materials from those markets' production. Do you plan to expand to those in Eastern Europe, especially, and how would that work? I fear then, without proper research and collection of local projects, the tool might suggest Western film changes out of the Eastern and look like Russian blockbuster wannabes.
Yeah, well, I mean, once we enter to a new market, what we check how much data we have, how much films that we have in our system, how much actors we have from this specific country. If it's not enough, we recollect some additional data for this country until, yeah, we start to work with one client. And so in that regard, yeah, I mean, for Eastern Europe, it is still the same. I mean, the most is, I mean, we work with the Poland, I guess, but if you count is Eastern Turkey and then Eastern Europe, sorry. Then we have the Turkish clients, but then again, yeah, for the other Eastern Europe, at this moment, we don't work with anybody, but that doesn't mean we cannot work. So again, I mean, if we see, I mean, some interest, and we check the data, and then if we are ready, we just go forward.
Then we have a question of how do we actually, if you could tell a bit more about how the actual processes of feeding the data into the AI. For example, if you're using complete script, and assume you are using word vector models to transform the script into machine readable format. The problem is that you have a very high dimensional feature space. I think you two should also connect afterwards, by the way. If that was fine, maybe you can propose a contact opportunity.
Well, I mean, the data part, yeah, I mean, it's not only scripts. I mean, we use, because we don't have script for all movies. Actually, for many of them, we don't have, but we want AI to see as many different films as possible. And for that, I mean, to overcome this problem, not having scripts for all films, so we approach also to feed the AI with the dialogues of the films, with their summaries, with the synopses, from the video part with their trailers, so as much as the different type of the info as possible. And then in that, we have really a hybrid network, which gets the video as input, audio as an input, text as an input. It's a huge network of, I think, over a few million of neurons, speaking technically, just yet to make some of these predictions.
Well, as I said, for those very specific questions, would you mind them contacting you, or could we find another opportunity? So I'm just thinking about, so we cannot go into depth here.
Of course, yeah. If there are any other questions, they can contact me. I mean, I am writing also my email in the chat.
Yeah, that's very kind.
Yeah.
Well, and last question. Tough choice. Can it or will it be expanded beyond film into script TV? So what's your scope?
Yeah, that's something we are actually strongly working on as well at this moment. We just feed our system with the TV scripts, TV shows recently. And then I think we will be able to release that part in like 5-6 weeks. We are close to the end. So one thing for that, I mean, once we go to in TV direction or non-box office direction, we want to together with all these narrative patterns, we also want to bring some value in terms of the impact of the content. So to be able to give some insights on that. And for this year, we were working a lot of work on if we can predict the potential of the content in the like streaming platforms on Netflix and on Amazon, etc. So we come to end on that as well. We have really great progress. So together with this TV show analysis, we will also release that, which can bring also impact analysis for other type of content.
Thank you very much. I'm told that we have to close the session now. Sami's email address is down in the chat. Quickly copy and paste it before.
Just a second, I made a typo. Just rewrite it.
You made it. Oh yeah, it's. I see. And you have to send it to all participants and yeah.
Yeah.
So and I will.
I sent to all panelists. Maybe sorry, I just.
To all panelists and participants. Yeah, thank you all for joining. I hope this has shed a little bit light on how producers actually can profit from AI technologies and where still there are limitations and where we have to work together on overcoming this and making this the tool that we want and not a tool that, well, controls us or whatever visions there might be, or dystopic visions might be prevailing in someone's minds. So I'm thanking you, Christiane, for the opportunity of hosting this workshop. It was also very insightful for me. And I thank Andrea, Sami, and Carlo for their insightful and very practical sharings of experience. Christiane, are you going to say some closing words, or do I close the session here with?
I would like to thank you all so much for your openness and for making the scientific topic so practical and understandable. Thank you very much. It was really inspiring and fruitful. And honestly, in the end, I'm happy to learn that AI, in the best case, will be a good help and support for the producers, but never replace human creativity. I'm happy about that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, for being with us. And I would like to recommend maybe another session, which will be running as well in the occasion of Filmfest Hamburg. It's organized by media-supported European film promotion. And that's a session where world states will meet producers. You can all stream that directly on the website filmfesthamburg.de. And maybe you have time, maybe you might join that. And thank you very much again, everybody, for joining us, for being a dear guest. And I hope to see you all again very soon, live, and with a chat, a personal chat afterwards. And so it just remains to wish you all a wonderful rest of the day and stay safe. Thank you very much and goodbye.